August 8th, 1840, the coastal town of Linnville, Texas, sits peacefully under the morning sun. Children play in the dusty streets. Merchants open their shops along the waterfront. No one suspects that within hours this thriving port will be burning, that hundreds of warriors are already thundering toward them, that they're about to witness the largest Native American raid on white settlements in United States history. This is the story of the Great Raid, a pivotal moment when the Comanche Nation launched a devastating strike that would reshape the Texas frontier forever. The Great Raid of 1840 wasn't a random act of violence. It was a calculated military response, a nation's answer to betrayal, broken promises, and the brutal murder of their leaders under a flag of truce. To understand this raid, we must understand the Comanche, the most formidable mounted warriors North America had ever seen. For nearly 2 centuries, they dominated the southern plains, controlling an empire that stretched from Kansas to northern Mexico. The Spanish called their territory Comancheria, and it was larger than most European nations. But by 1840, a new threat had emerged, the Republic of Texas. And the collision between Comanche sovereignty and Texan expansion was about to reach its breaking point. The Comanche didn't start as empire builders. Originally a small Shoshone band from the Rocky Mountains, they acquired horses in the early 1700s and transformed themselves into something unprecedented, a nomadic power that would dominate the plains for generations. Their mastery of horsemanship was legendary. Spanish observers claimed a Comanche warrior could shoot arrows with deadly accuracy while riding at full gallop, hanging off the side of his mount to present an impossible target. They could cover 70 miles in a day. They struck without warning and vanished like smoke. What happened next was chaos. Warriors drew knives, soldiers opened fire in the confined space, a chief tried to escape through a window and was shot down, women and children screamed. The stone walls echoed with gunfire and war cries. By the 1830s, the Comanche weren't just raiders, they were sophisticated traders, diplomats, and strategists. They maintained complex relationships with other tribes, Mexican traders, and American frontiersmen. Their vast horse herds numbered in the tens of thousands. They controlled the flow of goods across the southern plains. But this carefully balanced world was fracturing. Texas had won independence from Mexico in 1836. And the new republic's leaders had very different ideas about who owned the land the Comanche called home. March 19, 1840. San Antonio, Texas. 12 Comanche chiefs rode into town under a white flag of truce. They came for peace talks, responding to demands from Texas officials to negotiate and return white captives. Among them were leaders of the Penateca Band, the southernmost Comanche division, who bore the brunt of Texan expansion. The meeting was held in the Council House, a 1-story stone building in the center of town. What the Comanche leaders didn't know was that the Texans had already decided their fate. When the chiefs arrived with only one captive, a 15-year-old girl named Matilda Lockhart, who bore the scars of horrific abuse, Texas officials demanded all captives be produced immediately. The Comanche explained this was impossible. Captives were scattered across many camps held by different bands. They needed time. The Texans saw this as deception. Without warning, soldiers blocked the exits. The Comanche were told they were now prisoners until all captives were returned. When the smoke cleared, 35 Comanche lay dead, including women and children. 7 Texans had fallen, but the real casualty was any hope of peace. News of the Council House Massacre spread across Comancheria like a grass fire. The murder of peace delegates under a flag of truce violated every code of warfare, every sacred tradition. This wasn't just an insult, it was an act that demanded retribution on an unprecedented scale. The response was equally unprecedented. Buffalo Hump, a powerful war chief of the Penteca Comanche, began organizing something the frontier had never seen, a unified war party of staggering size. Hundreds of warriors from multiple bands agreed to ride together, Penteca, Tenawa, and others. Some estimates place the final number at over 1,000 warriors. Their target was ambitious. They would strike deep into the heart of settled Texas, all the way to the Gulf Coast. They would demonstrate that Texan settlements weren't safe, that Comanche power could reach anywhere. And they would take so much plunder that the memory of this raid would echo through generations. Buffalo Hump was the perfect leader for this operation. A warrior of fearsome reputation, he understood both traditional Comanche warfare and the changing realities of conflict with the Texans. In early August, the massive war party moved south like a storm. They swept through settlements in a carefully planned route, striking multiple targets to prevent Texas Rangers from concentrating their defense. Victoria, a small inland settlement, was attacked on August 6th. Warriors drove off horses, burned buildings, and killed several residents before moving on. The speed of the attack left survivors stunned. By the time any defense could be organized, the Comanche were gone. But Victoria was just a preliminary strike. The real target lay ahead, Linnville. On August 8th, as dawn broke over the coastal town, lookouts spotted something impossible on the horizon. A massive force of mounted warriors spread across the prairie like a breaking wave. Hundreds upon hundreds of them, painted for war, driving a vast herd of stolen horses before them. Linnville had about 25 residents and offered almost no defense. As warriors poured into town, terrified citizens fled to boats in the harbor or hid in warehouses. The Comanche didn't pursue them into the water. That wasn't the point. For hours, warriors systematically looted every building. They took cloth, tools, weapons, household goods, anything of value. They loaded merchandise onto pack horses and into captured wagons. Some warriors, delighting in the bizarre goods they'd never seen before, dressed themselves in top hats and dress coats. One observer reported seeing warriors galloping across the prairie wearing women's bonnets and parasols, celebrating their extraordinary victory. Then they set Linnville ablaze. The entire town burned as the massive war party turned north, driving hundreds of captured horses and carrying an estimated $300,000 worth of plunder, an astronomical sum in 1840. The Great Raid stunned the Republic of Texas. For the first time, white Texans confronted the reality that their settlements were vulnerable, that Comanche military power could reach deep into areas they considered civilized. Texas Rangers and militia, along with Tonkawa scouts who were traditional Comanche enemies, began pursuing the raiders. On August 12th, near Plum Creek, they caught up. The Battle of Plum Creek was chaotic and bloody. The Comanche, burdened by plunder and trailing stolen livestock, couldn't employ their usual hit-and-run tactics. Texas Rangers, armed with newly introduced Colt revolvers, had a technological advantage. Unlike single-shot rifles, these pistols allowed mounted rangers to fire multiple shots without reloading. The battle was a tactical defeat for the Comanche, with dozens of warriors killed and much of the plunder recaptured. But in strategic terms, the raid had succeeded. They'd struck deep into Texas, destroyed a major port, and demonstrated that Comanche power remained formidable. The Great Raid marked a turning point, not because it failed, but because of what it revealed about the changing balance of power on the Texas frontier. For the Comanche, it was both a triumph and a warning. They'd proven they could strike anywhere, but the cost had been significant. The battle at Plum Creek showed that new technologies, revolving pistols, organized ranger forces, were changing the nature of frontier warfare. For Texas, the raid shattered any illusion that westward expansion would be easy or peaceful. It prompted the Republic to invest heavily in military defenses, ranger forces, and a scorched-earth approach to Comanche relations. The raid also marked the last time the Comanche would mount such a large-scale offensive deep into settled territory. Within 5 years, Texas would join the United States. Within 2 decades, the Comanche Empire would begin its final collapse under pressure from the U.S. Army, professional buffalo hunters, and waves of settlers. The Great Raid of 1840 stands as a testament to Comanche military sophistication and their determination to defend their homeland. It wasn't a random act of savagery, it was a calculated response to betrayal, executed with precision by one of history's most formidable warrior cultures. Today, the raid reminds us that the story of the American West wasn't a simple tale of inevitable expansion. It was a complex collision of nations, each fighting for survival, for honor, and for their vision of the future. The flames that consumed Linnville that August morning lit up more than a single town. They illuminated the fierce resistance of a people who refused to disappear quietly into history.